Right. Okay, so I'm going to talk about my film UFOs and NATO now. This is a very dark film, and I'll just quickly summarize it for those of you who haven't seen it. I produced this in 2014. In 1997, a military guy came forward and gave some information to UFO researcher Derek Goff. And he told him that he'd been working in a black ops unit called Find and Secure. So this guy would be, he would be sent to another country in a jet, and they would be then given a helicopter and they would be on standby. And this other part of NATO would be targeting UFOs. So anything that came down to the ground, whether it would be some wreckage from a craft or whatever, their job was to go out in the helicopter and then seal off all of that evidence and stay there, camped out on the ground, until another American team came in to collect up all the evidence and then take it away. And so he said that sometimes they would be camped out in a remote location for up to 5 days, people in this unit. And he said in his tour of duty, he witnessed many, many UFOs, and he also witnessed between 35 and 40 mutilated human beings mutilated in exactly the same way that we see animal mutilation cases linked to UFOs. Incredible claims. Now, one of the interesting things that Derek Goff asked him was, well, hang on, you're sent out to another country, which takes a while to get there, and then there's engagement with UFOs. He said, yeah. He said, well, how do they know the UFOs are going to be there? And his answer was, he didn't know, but they have foreknowledge. And I asked him the same question, and he gave me the same answer, because the film follows my quest to meet this guy, and I've met him 6 or 7 times now, but he's now gone quiet on me. I've been trying to contact him because of some new information that I've got, but he hasn't been replying. But he gave me the same answer. I don't know, but they do. They know where these UFOs are going to be. Now, I've been puzzling over that. How the hell would NATO know where and when a UFO is going to appear so that they can target it? Now, you might have seen on a recent Rich Planet show, I featured this guy, Lee Martin. Now, he had a UFO sighting in the 1970s. Now, he's a miner from, well, not far from here, he lived in Vokru at the time he had the sighting. Now, there was another miner featured on the Rich Planet show who gave me an envelope. You might remember it. He actually gave me an envelope in this room. But I suspect now, I'm afraid to say, I don't know, that guy fabricated his account with the other miners in order to take the piss out of Lee Martin. And they've been pulling his leg for over 30 years about it, right? But I do believe that Lee Martin's sighting is a genuine sighting, okay? So this is where he saw the UFO. So he was walking along this road here in Vokru, where there's this mountain which overshadows the village. And he said a light came over. He thought it was a cloud initially, but it moved really, really fast. And then it came down and it landed on top of this hill. So I've done an artist's impression. He said it looked like an old-fashioned carriage clock. Now, when I put out information about this UFO sighting, I was contacted by another guy from the area. Let me just show you this map first. Lee Martin was walking down this road here in the early hours of the morning. He saw the thing land about there, okay? Now, I was contacted by a chap from this village here, Pontlotin, and he said, well, I've got video footage of a UFO from 2007, 10 years ago. Would you like to see it? So I went to see him. He's in the audience tonight, and he showed me the footage. So he notices this object hovering above his washing line in the western sky, and it sat there for over an hour, and it only moved slightly. I've checked all of the different angles that he was filming it from, and it's maybe moved a few degrees throughout the whole time it was there. Now, I have checked the astronomical charts. This was filmed on the 3rd of March, 2007. I've checked that Venus was not in that part of the sky, or any other bright objects were not there. So it's not a star or a planet. It's not a Chinese lantern because it was there for over an hour. It's not a helicopter. It's not a plane. He didn't know what it was. But he was massively intrigued by it, that he sat for over 20 minutes filming it. And he was going from his bedroom to his garden and then to another part of his garden. And he was so intrigued by it, he jumped in his car and he started driving towards it. But as he was driving towards it, it then vanished very quickly. Now, when he's zooming in on this object, I'm not sure that this diamond effect, when it looks like it's shimmering, I'm not sure if that is an accurate representation of the object, or whether that's just due to the fact that the camera is not focusing correctly. But it was an anomalous light, and he didn't know what it was. So I went to his house, and I took some photographs from the bedroom window where he filmed it. So as you saw in the video there, the object is hovering mainly above this tree for over an hour. So I took this photograph, which you can see the tree is still there 10 years later. So I've identified the tree on Google Earth. This is the bedroom window here. This is the tree. So if we draw a line through the right-hand side of the tree and then extend that line onto the larger map, I've added 2 more lines in just for a little bit of error. We see that this is very close, possibly, to where Lee Martin had his sighting, which I find very interesting. Now then, I then had a look at an Ordnance Survey map. This road here is this one, and this one coming down there is this one. So we see here on the map, Cairn, C-A-I-R-N, which is an ancient stone circle, right at the point where Lee Martin says he saw his UFO land, and possibly underneath the point where the chap from Pont Lawton filmed the footage that you've just seen. So I've looked up some details about this stone cairn. Apparently it's a denuded and robbed out ring cairn in the form of a circular platform about 14 meters in diameter and 0.4 meters high, partly stony and partly grass covered. There is a possible curve visible on the south side. So I went up there. There's very little left of it. It wasn't even worth taking a photograph of it, right? Now it states here, religious, ritual, and funerary, right? The archaeologists do not know that, right? They rarely find bones at these sites. They're just guessing by saying it's religious or ritual, right? And notice it's quite large, 14 meters in diameter. It's quite a large stone circle. Now, I got talking to Andrew Johnson about the subject of stone circles, and we had different opinions on it. And we may well do a show on what the true purpose of stone circles are, because people say, oh, they're for keeping sheep in, or they were buildings, or they were for praying in, or whatever. But I really do think that for many stone circles, there's something a bit more to it. So Andrew pointed me to this book, Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty. Let me just explain the premise of this book. In science books, when we see the Earth with its magnetic field, it's usually shown with a bar magnet running through it, and the magnetic field lines coming out like this and going around the Earth, both sides of the Earth, or all around the Earth. Now, that's not strictly true, because the side of the Earth which faces the sun has a different shaped magnetic field to the dark side. So as the Earth rotates, when it goes from light into dark, the Earth's magnetic field changes. Any electrical engineer will tell you that if you have a changing magnetic field, you will get electricity induced in anything that is in that vicinity. So the Earth's crust has what are called telluric currents, which flow through the Earth's crust, because of the changing Earth's magnetic field. This is real science. You'll find it on Wikipedia. Telluric currents, you can measure them, right? Okay. Now, those currents, when they flow, they will flow according to the conductivity of the rock through the Earth. When you have electric current set up, it will itself generate its own magnetic field. So you'll get a magnetic field going around it with the current going that way. That will then modify the Earth's magnetic field. So what happens is you get anomalies in the Earth's magnetic field during dawn and dusk at certain points on the Earth, according to what rock is there. Now, here's an example of one. So this is in the US. So this magnetic anomaly here in the Earth's magnetic field will occur for a certain period at certain times of the day. So a geomagnetic contour map of a Native American rock chamber in Kent Cliffs, New York, showing a negative magnetic anomaly right at the open doorway typical of such structures. This anomaly will electrify parts of the air as it enters the chamber. So what these researchers have done, they have been to hundreds of sites of stone circles and chambers, right? And they have found at many of these sites, they find these magnetic anomalies. They've built their stone chambers on magnetic anomalies, right? Now, the reason that they build these stone chambers in these particular locations, according to the authors of this book, is that they would use them to make their seeds more fertile. So they would put the seeds in there, and as it says here, the anomaly will electrify parts of the air as it enters the chamber. Now, there is research being done which proves that you can affect a seed's how well a seed performs by using electricity or electromagnetism. You might say, well, hang on, we're talking 4,000 years old here for these structures. How the hell would they know that there's these magnetic anomalies appearing on the Earth at certain times of the day? Well, the authors of this book claim that certain people are very electrosensitive. Some people are more sensitive to electromagnetism than others, and they would use these people to seek out these areas and build their stone chambers there in order to improve the yield of their seeds. And it's not just one or two chambers that they found this with. Many, many stone circles, they find these naturally occurring magnetic anomalies. And these magnetic anomalies will have been there probably for millions of years, occurring at certain times during the day. So we come back to our Vokru map, right? We've got possibly 2 cases with UFOs hovering over this area, and we've got a stone circle there. So if we go down the premise that that stone circle was put there because there's a magnetic anomaly there, and this is something on my list of things to do, I need to go up this hill and I need to take measurements at various points to see if there is a magnetic anomaly at certain times of the day. And do note, you saw there the UFO being filmed. It was at dusk when it was getting dark at the Terminator. And I think Lee Martin's sighting was at dawn, right? So let's just assume that this stone chamber was built because there's a magnetic anomaly there. What about the UFOs? The ancients knew about the magnetic anomalies, so they put their stone circles there. Perhaps the UFO also knows about the magnetic anomaly, but is using it for another reason, not for seeds. I don't know, maybe the aliens have got seeds in their UFO that they're, but perhaps, is it some sort of getting energy from there, or is it a portal? I don't know, but is the UFO benefiting from some sort of magnetic anomaly? And the other thing that I haven't said yet is that the 3rd of March, 2007, when that UFO was hovering above that hill, is the night of a total lunar eclipse, right? So does the position of the Earth and the Sun and the Moon affect the magnetic anomalies? Does it enhance them, perhaps? All right? Now, if you consider what I've just explained, let's say someone maps out all of the best magnetic anomalies all around the planet, and perhaps on certain nights they're much higher in energy, right? And that NATO know which ones the UFOs are going to appear at. So perhaps this explains how NATO have worked out how they have foreknowledge of UFO activity. So it's just a hypothesis, okay? But I am going to go up that hill and take some measurements to see if we've got magnetic anomalies at dawn and dusk. Okay, now let's come on to this film now, because I have got some new information that I'm going to go through. As I said, this guy worked in this special unit, and he told Derek Goff and myself about various different cases. This is a representation of 2 bodies that were found on the Brecon Beacons. So what's alleged to have happened is that a vehicle was parked in a lay-by in a place called Llambedda, not far from Crickhowell. A young couple were abducted from the vehicle in their seats. So when the military found the car, there were no front seats in there, where the lights were on and the engine was running. So the military took the vehicle away, they took samples, and then they started a search, which took 2 weeks. 2 weeks before the bodies were found, and they were found just south of Talabont Reservoir, right? But the military bagged them, and then that was all covered up, and they had the classic mutilation injuries. Okay, here's some of Derek Goff's notes from 1997. We see here that the military went to the car, the engine was running, there was no one there, there was no seats in the front. They took the car away, and they took samples from the ground. 2 weeks later, 3 kilometers away from where the car was found, 2 bodies, blah, blah, blah. Now, I've since found out, by the way, this is news articles that I have correlated with this case, and this has allowed me to determine the probable date of when this happened. So yeah, I've since had new information that the bodies were actually just south of Talabont Reservoir, which is 13 kilometers where the car was found. Now, the reason why I'm explaining all this is because of the date. So the bodies were, the couple were abducted on the 20th of August, 1990, according to the military source. So 2 weeks after that is the 3rd of September. 3rd of September, 1990 is when these bodies were found there on the Brecon Beacons. And there have allegedly been more than just this case on the Brecon Beacons.